Every family's journey is different. Today, we're going to focus on special needs children and how to care for them. Stay tuned to learn more about the right mindset and financial tools you need to be successful.
Welcome to a Wiser Retirement Podcast, where we cut through the noise and bring you real, honest conversations about investing, retirement, and building lasting wealth. No sales pitches, no gimmicks, just everything your financial advisor won't tell you.
Welcome to the Wiser Retirement Podcast. I'm Casey Smith. Today, I'm joined with Megan Timko, founder of Parallel and Chief Operating Officer of Gradual Behavioral Health. Hey, Miss Megan.
Hi, Casey. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Glad to have you. Let's start, just kind of dive into this. We've had you on before, so you are a two-time guest now, or a three-time guest?
Two-time, three-time, maybe in the future.
Maybe in the future, two-time guest. So this is a pretty heavy topic, but I think it affects so many families.
Yes, so many more than I think people realize.
You know, we have a Wiser family member client now that has a young son that's dealing with cancer. Mm-hmm. And I am going to go by and see them at their house on this coming up week. Really cool, where they have a Calendly set up. Mm-hmm. So if you want to come visit, you go to this little mini website, mm-hmm. and you click on the Calendly link, and it says, these are the times available. And it's like 30-minute slots.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
But then at the bottom, it said, we just want your prayers and support. Mm-hmm. Please don't bring toys, and a whole list of things. Because they're just, and I talked to the dad directly. He's like, man, we're just getting bombarded with balloons and toys and just a bunch of stuff we don't need. We don't have a spot for any of this stuff. Just like we have everything we need. But then it says, hey, if you want to help support other kids with cancer, here's a link to support. And then here's a meal train, which is really important. So people have filled out when they bring meals and everything, right? So this family is going through hopefully a very short time period. Maybe it's a year, maybe it's a year and a half, hopefully it's less, but the entire community, you can tell, is just pour their love and support they want for nothing. It's great. So let's switch this up a second. Mm-hmm. So with a special needs child, there's the point where you kind of figure that something probably is different. Mm-hmm. And then you find out, okay, wow, maybe this child's always going to be with me. Mm-hmm. And I want to be 70 years old and have a 50-year-old child at home. Mm-hmm. And this is my life now, good, bad, or indifferent, right? Mm-hmm. But there's not that kind of support.
No.
Right?
There's not. Unfortunately, there's not.
It's like, that's not how we think about special needs children.
No, we don't think about special needs children that way. Honestly, I think part of it is when you have a small special needs child, there's a lot of support from our educational institutions.
Yeah.
And so there's sort of like a lot of people in that space, and we're working on inclusion. The other thing that's happening at the same time is parents are compartmentalizing everything. And so they're here. They're not thinking about, when I'm 70 and my child is 50, what will I do?
Yeah.
And I like to think about it whenever I do talks about this. I tell people rather, think about this like little boxes. These parents are moving into little boxes. I was just diagnosed, or my child was just diagnosed. What do I do? My child just finished therapy. What do I do now? My child is now navigating social skills. What do I do now? My child is transitioning and preparing to go into the adult world. What do I do now? And so on and so forth. Every parent is different, where they hit sort of what I think of is like, this is terminal velocity, and they go, oh my gosh, what do I do?
Right.
There's a colloquialism called the cliff, where the services end. Mm-hmm. And sometimes parents hit their end before or after that. But there inevitably is a point where the parents go, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. And in the meantime, they're trying to survive day to day in many cases.
Every day is a little box.
Depending on the severity of what's happening, obviously.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's, I've been in this field for 25 years now. I've been a behavior analyst for 21 years, and I've seen people in home and communities. I've worked with people in several different countries. There's no differences across demographics or location. Everybody has the same fear.
Yeah.
Everybody has the same wish for their child. And, there's some key things I think that can make a difference for every family that we just don't talk enough about.
Yeah.
One of those things being money.
Right. No, very true. It's very resource heavy, and you do have to think about the planning difference. Why don't you kind of start with talking a little bit about Parallel and what you do there and the graduate behavioral health position that you have now as well.
Yeah, because I couldn't get enough jobs.
Right.
So at Parallel, what we do is we help families navigate that post-secondary transition to adulthood. And that looks very different for everybody. It looks very different for every family. It looks very different for every adult child.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's not linear. Actually, it's quite often not linear. Um, I took this role at Gradual Behavioral Health recently because one of the things I started to see was not enough people are prepared when they hit this moment in time. Why is that? I don't have a full answer for that, but not
Yeah.
enough people are hitting this moment prepared either on the family side or on the adult child side. And, like I said, some of that has to do with the financial planning part of it.
Yeah.
Some of it has to do with the resources part of it. And some of it has to do with, I just didn't even know this was a thing when my kid was first diagnosed.
So what we start with, like, what life are we planning for? So let's kind of start with the very beginning,
Yeah.
right?
So when we think about the life that we're planning for, we're aiming for what is the most independent version of life that this person can have. Where will they thrive? What will they be doing?
Hmm.
Where will they be working if that's in their future? Where will they be living? Is it going to be at home? Is it going to be in an inclusive living situation? You kind of have to
Hmm.
think about what are the hopes and dreams of the family and the individual. When they're young,
Yeah,
you're kind of,
you don't know that,
you don't,
right?
you can start to sort of form a thesis about that as they get a little bit older. But the core of all of that is if you're not planning for that thing,
Yeah,
you will not achieve it. Financially, you will not achieve it in terms of social support structure, and skill wise, you will not achieve that thing if you're not starting early.
well, that's probably changing. It's no different than, one of the planning questions we ask
Hmm.
is, you're 80 years old, you look back on your life, what's it we want to accomplish?
Hmm.
Um, but sometimes those things change. You want to drive across the country in an RV, and then one day you're like, I don't want to do that. That sounds awful. The roads are really tiny, and it always breaks down. And I don't like emptying the tanks.
Yes.
Like, we're gonna fly and stay in hotels. So things can change with a special needs child from the day you find out
Hmm.
to 5 years to 10 years to 15 years down the road. So how do you how often are you going back? Should you be going back and revisiting, like, what your goals, and is this something you write down, something you
Hmm.
document?
Yeah, it's something we document. Honestly, when you think about it clinically, these goals are adjusted every 6 months. It's no different when you're doing a plan for the future,
Hmm.
because things can change so rapidly. Both, when you think about, we were just talking before this about like legislative issues, things can change quickly with what's available as an opportunity.
Yeah.
And that can be good or bad. And so if you're not keeping your eye on how are these things changing, you can't change with it. And
Yeah.
what you don't want is to be 80 and have a 50-year-old child and say, oh my gosh, I've been planning for X for all these years and it is no longer available to me. Because then
Yeah.
you don't have, there's no time left at that point.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah, we'll get into this later, but I'm not a big fan of annuities or whole life insurance. And if you plan properly, you shouldn't even need any of those documents. But there are two times when I think whole life insurance makes sense. It's when you're married to someone who's like 10 to 20 years younger than you. And the other time is exactly like this for special needs. We need to make sure that there's resources available. But if you're 80 years old and you try to pick up a whole life insurance policy, that is not happening.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to say, as you asked that question, like, can you do that?
No, you need to be doing that in your 40s,
Mhm.
right? It needs to be a slow build, not writing big checks, because you probably wouldn't have the resources at that point. I don't think anybody's going to insure an 80-year-old anyway. Okay, so let's talk about some benefits, foundations that we can build upon when it comes to supporting someone with special needs.
I think the first thing is you have to build your team early. This is true for everybody that I work with, and whether this is in a clinical capacity or whether this is on the transition planning, is who is your team?
Mm-hmm.
And so I really like it when we have a few different people on that team. Obviously you have the core people, the parents, the siblings, anybody who's a close caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love it when there's a wealth manager, an experienced wealth manager who knows about these things,
Mm-hmm.
and then a special needs trust attorney. And those three people are my personal trifecta for like, we have got this down.
Right.
So when I walk into a team, or at least I can build a team that's focused on those things, I'm like, okay, I'm going to feel good about where this child is going eventually because we have the right people here at play.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's really no different in normal financial planning. You always want to have an advisor that's coordinating with a CPA and an attorney. So that makes sense. I think though, maybe dive a little bit deeper. You just can't go to any attorney.
No.
So how do you spot an attorney that, sometimes people put this stuff on the website, but they
Yes.
also have like auto collision and
Yeah.
and adoption, and
I see that
they
a
have
lot.
like 20 things. You're like, there's no way you can be good at 20 totally different things. So how do you find the specialist?
So there are, a handful of really good people in Atlanta and in other most major metropolitan areas. There are attorneys who do this, and this is all they do, right?
Yeah.
So that's a number one green flag, is if this is all this attorney does, then you're probably at the right place.
Yeah.
So I would ask the important questions. Do you do this and something else, or do you just do this?
Right.
Why do you do this? A
Mhm.
lot of attorneys who practice in this space are personally motivated for one reason. Either they have their own special needs child, or
Yeah.
they have a sibling or a cousin or a niece or a nephew.
I would say it's an area of expertise that would drive a lot of revenue for them.
Yeah, it
It's
does.
more of a civil service
hmm
than.
Well, it does drive revenue for them, and somebody who
Well, I'm
is
saying I know it does, but they're not the ones making $1 million
No.
a year doing this.
No.
This is my point.
No, they're not. They're doing this out of love of doing
And
this.
passion for doing it. Yeah.
And that's important too, because if you have somebody that's checking a box because you walked in their door, you're not going to get what you need. And there
Yeah.
are too many of those people, I will say. The bad actors out there that understand what a needy space this is,
Yeah.
meaning there needs to be more people working in the space of neurodiversity and special needs. And so other people have seen that, and it's like a moth to a flame.
Right.
And so screen your team before you bring them on.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so let's talk about the same legal topic. So building blocks, guardianship, powers, trust. Let's kind of dive into more of structure of this.
Yeah. So there's no right or wrong with this. It's, what is this certain family need? What does this
Mhm.
ecosystem of resources need? I think a lot of people want me or anybody that works in my capacity to hand them do this.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you can't give somebody a list that says do these things, because maybe somebody doesn't need guardianship, or maybe they do.
Mhm.
And you need somebody who can advise you legally on the very important aspects of those things. And when you think about, going back to where are we headed, where is this person going? For instance, there's a number of these IPSI programs popping up. It's inclusive post-secondary education. They're
Mhm.
amazing. It gives a lot of people the opportunity to attend university that otherwise wouldn't have had that opportunity.
Mm.
You cannot have somebody else be your guardian in these programs.
Oh, interesting.
And so if you've made the choice to become your child's guardian and then you try to send them to one of these programs, it will not work. So that's why you have to start planning so early on to
Yeah.
understand what's the domino effect of every decision I make from now until I'm no longer here.
Okay. That's a good point. So let's go back again to getting help. Are these attorneys also helping navigate SSDI?
Some of them are.
Is it the same expertise, or do you need a Social Security disability attorney to handle that?
There are people that just do that, and there
Yeah.
are people who do both. And I think I know people that are great at doing either just that and both.
Yeah.
But it's important to me, again, that when we ask somebody the questions, why are you doing this? What are your fees?
Right.
You can kind of feel out real quick if somebody's just there for a buck, or if somebody's there because they want to do this the right way.
Yeah.
Most
Is Social Security disability, is that right for every family, or is it?
It's not. and there's a lot of reasons that, I will say I am not an attorney, so I can't tell you legally
Sure.
what's the right and wrong reason to do it. But there are times when it's appropriate and there are times when it's not appropriate. A lot of families that come to us at Parallel, they choose not to go that route for many different reasons. Either they have, I would call significant self worth, and they don't need these items.
Yeah.
And so they don't want to have to deal with the incredible amount of paperwork that goes along with all of this because
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Sure.
And the amount of like checking in and verifying, it's very task intensive.
That goes back to Medicaid. How does Medicaid help just people with special needs?
Yeah, so that's right now that's a big question, and I encourage everybody to pay a lot of attention to how current legislation at the federal level is going to affect that, because it may help people make a decision. Is this something that I want to do? Something that I don't want to do?
Mm-hmm.
When we think about SSI or waivers, a lot of programs for adults are dependent upon these as resources. I think that'll probably change a little bit in the next year or two, depending on how the what is it? The bill, the
Oh,
big bill,
the big beautiful
the
bill.
big beautiful bill. Depending on how that affects all of this,
Yeah.
that may have its own personal domino effect on how these resources are allocated to each state and how each state decides to allocate those resources. But right now, for instance, I was talking to a client last night who wanted to go to a program, but the program would only accept waiver money, and they don't have the waiver.
Okay. Explain
And
the waiver for
so
us.
the waiver is essentially an amount of money given to individuals to spend at their discretion for certain therapies.
Oh.
And so this particular person is on what we call like the accepted list in Georgia, and every state does it differently.
Yeah.
But they've been on there for a very long time. And that's the other part of this is you have to wait a really long time for some of these things. There's a lot of I'll say, fighting over why that list exists, why we have a list
Mm.
at all. But do you have the time and the mental energy and the resources to chase down these funds? And some of my clients just say, no,
Yeah.
we don't.
They have their own resources.
They do. And they don't want to spend 5 to 10, sometimes 15 years waiting to
Oh,
get
wow.
these other resources because you miss out on opportunity. And so it's an opportunity cost at that point.
Yeah.
Does my child have time to waste 15 years on this list if some of these resources are only they only drive with being on the list?
Yeah. Interesting. But all of which you can pay for on your own.
Sometimes no.
Mm.
It's strange.
Right.
I don't know how to explain that, but some groups only take waivers.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay. So that sounds like that's the decision tree at
It
some
is.
point at the very beginning of how you want to be able to fund help for your child.
Yes, it's a decision tree with many, many, many decisions, and it goes back to there's no checklist for any of this, right?
Yeah.
You have to decide at that moment with the resources you have, with the team you have, is this worth my time? Is this
Yeah.
worth my emotional capital? Because this is an incredibly emotional process from diagnosis to whatever the destination is. And this takes a lot of your emotional capital. And some of my clients just say, I don't want to waste it there.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Quick check-in. Have you thought about the legacy you'll leave behind? Download 7 Steps to Leave a Financial Legacy, a free guide from Wiser Wealth Management to learn more. It's not just about wealth. It's about leaving a lasting impact. Go to wiserinvestor.com/guides to download your free guide today. Now let's jump back into the episode.
So let's talk about some financial tools that can work with benefits. So one we do here is an ABLE account. Can you kind of walk us through the ABLE and why people would want to save money into an ABLE account?
Yeah, so I'm not an expert on it, but I will say that, the tax advantage here is that when you put money into the account, which I think we started in 2017 or 18 here, it goes in without the tax burden. And so why wouldn't you want to do that?
Yeah. Tax deductible to go in and then tax-free coming out. And it can be used for special needs
Yes.
situations.
So most people I work with, if not all the people I work with, do exercise an ABLE account.
Yeah. And then a lot of times you don't know that you need an ABLE account until well later. So a lot of good savers will start with a 529. You can convert a portion of your 529 annually
Mhm.
from that account into an ABLE account to be able
Yes.
to be spent.
Yes.
So we have done that several times here as well. Let's talk a bit about, we talked about life insurance a minute ago, getting life insurance early to know that you can get a super fund, maybe a trust for the
Yes.
special needs child.
Yes.
That's a avenue.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that, over the last 10 years, I've really realized a wealth manager, the moment you get the diagnosis, a wealth manager who has experience working with families with special needs, it is
Mhm.
imperative that you go the moment you get the diagnosis. And I don't think it means you have to have millions of dollars. I think you need somebody who's like an independent third party telling you, hey, let's think about these things from a financial standpoint.
Yeah.
You may not. Maybe it starts as a 529 and it switches over to an ABLE later, or maybe they end up going to an IPSI program and that 529 will work.
Yeah.
And all of these things, like, talk about emotional capital. You want someone who can just make these decisions for you and with you.
Or have seen how things work and
Mhm.
explain it and say, this is the best way to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shortcut it for you.
Mhm.
I see this scenario a lot. It'll probably make you cringe, but I see scenarios where you have special needs children, one child, and then you have a sibling who's fully functional.
Mhm.
And what the state strategy is, we're just going to give everything to Molly because we know Molly will take care of John. And it's like, we can't leave anything to John in his name. So they know that part,
Yes.
but there's no formal structure.
Yeah.
I mean, Molly could be like, peace out, see ya. Oh, Molly would never do that.
Oh, Molly will do that. Molly
and I
will
would
do
say
that.
there's a good chance Molly's going to do that.
Yeah.
So this is where the planning comes in, and you can set things up. I'm honestly, I think it's pretty easy to set up the right structure to make sure you're benefiting the special needs child, and they're not controlling the money necessarily.
Mhm.
They're definitely getting access
Mhm.
to it from a legal perspective, so they can qualify for what they need to qualify for.
Yes.
And there are a million different ways you can write that trust, but there are some basic guidelines you have to stay within. But there's a million different ways that you can write that. So
Yeah.
I would say don't make that mistake. There are organizations out there like the Cumberland Trust Company.
Oh, I love Cumberland Trust. We work with them a lot.
The Cumberland Trust will settle your estate, handle your estate for you. I mean, you need a net worth of over $2 million for them to really play ball. There are some modest fees associated with them, but you can write them right into the trust, and they have people that know how to handle this and will oversee assets.
Yes.
So it's I would assume, I don't know this for sure, but like I have an elderly client now that needs a lot of help. She doesn't have any family, and I was volunteering my time to try to get her help, and been doing it for this for a year and a half. And finally I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is never ending. but we hired a geriatric nurse. So we just hired a nurse. So her whole job is to make sure that this lady is doing okay. And she goes to all the doctor's appointments. She does everything to make sure that this elderly person, I assume in special needs world, as you're an older adult, right? This person this client I'm talking about has some mental issues that she's dealing with. I would assume that there's services just like that you could be set up.
Yeah. I
I mean, I don't know why the geriatric nurse would discriminate, not work with, an adult special needs person.
Yeah.
Right.
It takes a little bit more of a specialized care provider, but those things exist. But again, you have to plan for it.
Yeah, exactly. They're $155 an hour.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot.
You gotta make sure that you have funds available for that.
Yeah.
For sure.
I've walked into client situations before where somebody had, I would say it wasn't a modest amount of money saved, but then when you bring up $155 an hour times 24 hours a day times 7 days a week.
Yeah.
That snowball becomes enormous very quickly. And then all of a sudden you're talking about millions and millions of dollars.
Right.
And you realize I haven't planned for that.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm 80.
80 years old. Yeah, it's too late.
And I also need a nurse.
Yes. Well, yes. I explain it every time I get to talk to, 28-year-old who wants to start getting their financial life in order and saving for retirement. It's like, this is great. This is awesome. There's so many things I can tell you. When you're 59 and a half and you want to retire at 60, there's only so many things I can do for you.
Yeah.
So planning ahead is important, not just in this case, but every case. So let's say we kind of rolling with this 80-year-old here who has a 50-year-old special needs child. 80-year-old passes away. So what kind of housing, what community does a special needs person belong to at this point? Like, what happens?
So that is something I think people don't want to hear. And this is the hard part, which is it really depends on a couple of factors. The two biggest factors are how much clinical support did they have early on?
Mm-hmm.
And the other part is how much did the family plan for this moment in time?
Yeah.
If this person has any sort of big behaviors, it's group living is almost not an option for them. There's a lot of rules about entering into a group living facility.
Yeah.
Even if you have the money, even if you come saying, I'm going to build another building for you.
Right.
If your child has never had the sort of intervention required early on that will result in independence and low to no behaviors in, adulthood, there's no dice here.
Yeah.
And so that's one part of it. The other part of it is
so they end up where?
They
living in
end
a
up,
house by themselves?
Well, if you don't have anywhere for them to go and they have no guardian, the state takes over.
Oh.
And the state in Georgia, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of transparency in that process. And so the court, a probate judge will take over and decide where to put that person. And then they kind of go there and disappear. Not disappear off the earth, but,
yeah. Kind of forgotten about at that point.
And sometimes that can be good, but there are some very big horror stories out there about that moment in time. And I think people don't want to hear about that because it's hard to hear. But if you have a 3-year-old who has just been diagnosed with, fill in the blank, I hope that's motivation for you, if you're listening, to start planning now.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be in that point. It's hard and it's sad and nobody likes it. The judge doesn't like it. The people who are supporting don't like it. But sometimes there is just an individual who can't access housing. Now, let's say they can. Let's say this person has a bunch of money in a special needs trust. And there are some opportunities out there for them, but you have to financially save for that.
Yeah.
Some of these places are $10,000 or $15,000 a month, and so you
right.
do that math again. It's big numbers.
Yeah, it's big numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where if you can plan early, you got to figure out how to turn $1 into $100.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to have some leverage.
Yes.
To be able to do that.
Yes.
You can't do this at the last minute.
You really can't.
Yeah. Okay.
Plan early. Plan often.
So there's different housing models, right? You could live. Is it kind of like who's it? Truett Cathy or Dan Cathy had the places up at Barry.
Oh, it's
for
magical
for adopted children. And then there's another one, or for orphans. And the other one is for special needs children. Right?
Amber Grace is, I believe, the name of it.
Amber Grace. Yeah, yeah. They just built that.
Yeah. So wonderful. The Chick-fil-A granted some money, and then Barry gave like 100-year lease on the land, I think. It's a wonderful, again, you cannot have any behaviors and go there.
Okay.
But it's for the right kid, right? Like
the
right adult. I call them kids because they are somebody's child when I'm working with them. But the right kid, it's a great opportunity for life. I don't believe you have to leave there as long as it works out for you.
Yeah, correct.
And it's a wonderful.
And you're living with a family, aren't you?
There's a host family for. I saw the plans for it a long time ago. There's like a host family for like a village of little houses, and then there's a bunch of these little groups around a main living area, and then the Barry students interact, and then they can work at Barry University. It's a best case scenario.
Yeah.
But if you want that to be where your kid goes, 3 years old is when you have to start planning for it.
Noted.
Yeah.
Don't stick your head in the sand. That's what I'm learning in this conversation.
Yes.
So let's address the family system. You think about, you have a special needs child, you have a net worth of $3 million, you pass away. Most people leave their resources 50-50. Is that what we should be doing? Is that how we should be thinking about it?
This is the struggle I think a lot of families enter into, because if you have an adult child who is successful, an adult child who doesn't have the opportunity that, I guess like social or work wise, to be able to do what child one does,
Yeah.
and you split it 50-50.
Yeah.
A lot of parents go, well, I want to leave it all to child two that has some needs, but then I'm going to
Mhm.
make child one feel really bad because I left them
Right.
nothing. And if I give them $10,000 and the other one $2,990,000, and there's no right or wrong answer, right?
Yeah.
And I see families struggle with this. I don't know what the right answer is. What I do know is if you don't go to a special needs trust attorney to make those critical decisions, and you just throw it all into a pot, which you wouldn't imagine how many times I've seen that
Oh,
happen.
I'm sure.
It is chaos. It is chaotic. It is chaos, and everybody loses on the other side, even if there's $30 million at play.
Yeah.
As a parent, as a caregiver, whatever your role is, if you've got the money that's going to be fueling this child's future, you better have like a really detailed plan that is
Mhm.
ironclad, so that when you leave this earth, people aren't fighting over it, and no one's trying to be like, oh, I love little Jimmy. He's my best friend. I would love to take care of him because he has $30 million, which
Oh,
I've seen
yeah.
happen.
That, yeah, absolutely. Well, that happens with older adults too,
Mhm.
honestly. All right. So let's talk about a little bit about your company and how you help with all this. So kind of walk me through your planning process and what you do for people.
Yeah. So we have moved into an advisory role, just because of the second role I have taken on as COO. And so now what we do with clients, and actually with the wealth managers, is we
Mhm.
advise on cases. And so if a wealth manager gets a case, or a new client coming in and they say, we don't know what to do, or we don't know how to think about this, or what should we be planning for?
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to say, okay, we're going to put a bunch of money in a bucket and we know we need to save, but what will that money go towards?
Yeah.
What are we planning for? How much do we need to save? Those are the sort of things that we help families ideate and wealth managers ideate.
Mhm.
And so in that advisory capacity, we work on both ends, both with the families and with wealth advisors. When you talk about clinical support, this has given me a whole new perspective on the importance of early intervention. And so, if you want a life for your child that includes workforce opportunity, independent living opportunity,
Mhm.
group living opportunity, basically just a full, purposeful life, your work begins in early intervention, which is
Mhm.
why I took this role at Gradual. I realized too many people either were like, I'm not going to do that, or it's not that important. When you have a kid that's not maybe significantly impacted by their disability, but just
Right.
moderately impacted. Well, if you don't fix those things, like I keep saying, they will come back to be party to the decisions that are made later on in life. And
Yeah.
then you can't fix them. And
So
so
once you kind of help them lay out this path, how
Mhm.
often does it need to be revisited? How often are you coming back to the plan?
I mean, like if I had my way, it would
Yeah.
be every 6 months. I'll be quite honest with you, just because of
Mhm.
how quickly things change, how
True. Because you're
quickly.
starting when they're so young,
Yes.
ideally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you don't know when they're first diagnosed. Let's say you have a child who has an autism spectrum disorder
Yeah.
diagnosis. You don't know when they're first diagnosed what life is going to look like when they're 5 or 7 or 11.
True.
And so it's obtuse to say we're going to make all these plans when they're 3 and then at 18 we'll come back.
Yeah.
So I like every 6 months. I would say the average is probably every 9 to 12 months
Hmm.
for most of
So
my
so flip
clients.
that around. Let's say that someone comes to you, but they have a teenager
Hmm.
or an early 20-year-old.
Hmm.
Um, is it too late at that point?
Sometimes, I'll be honest with you, sometimes.
Yeah.
I used to not think that, but now I know that. And so if you
Just because you
have
lost all those years of being able to save and pivot, or because maybe they've already made some decisions that kind of derail what could be done in the future.
both,
Okay.
if you, and this has happened, if you have let's say a 25-year-old and you come and you say, I would love Jimmy to be a doctor. And Jimmy is, moderately impacted with this diagnosis, but
Mhm.
is unmotivated to go to school and doesn't care
Yeah.
and doesn't want to go.
Right.
Um, I can't fix that. Motivation and academic success and planning for something like that
Yeah.
starts very early on, whether you're neurodivergent or neurotypical, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, generalize that out as you will. when somebody comes at 25 saying, oh man, we really want some huge life pivot,
Yeah.
that's a hard one to do, especially
because
when,
they're already kind of set in their ways.
yeah,
Interesting.
or when they're 25 and you want them to go to one of these inclusive post-secondary programs,
Yeah.
and they've never spent the night alone. They've never given themselves medication. They don't know their address or how to navigate their hometown. These are things that at 25, can you teach?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it going to be fast? No, it's not
Right.
going to be fast.
Interesting. Okay. So what I'm taking away from this is start early.
Mm-hmm.
That's the important part.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else you want to add to our conversation today?
I think people get really afraid. I think fear is the primary barrier to people making these plans or thinking about making these plans.
Yeah.
And I think too often somebody will say something they hold on to. Oh, well, this person didn't plan, so I don't have to. They've heard a
Yeah.
story on the internet or a 60-minute special about a kid who persisted despite. And I want to say that those are wonderful, beautiful stories of one person. This is, like I said, 25 years doing only this. I can tell you that is not an average by a long shot. And so if everybody my one thing would just be to say, please plan early, intervene early, plan early, find the right team early on.
How do people get in contact with you?
Well, there's a couple ways. I mean, I guess one of the best ways is LinkedIn. If for wealth managers is LinkedIn. I would say for families, depending on what your needs are, you can get in touch with me through Parallel or through Gradual if you have like an early intervention kiddo. Both of those are Megan at parallelintl.com or Megan at gradualbh.com.
Okay.
And I'm pretty responsive to email.
Great. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
We have a bonus feature. So we started doing this thing internally. You're the first one externally. So we have 3 questions, 3 minutes, and we simply, let's see. Everyone's done. I think most people have done it here. Maybe not me. I haven't done it because I had to be interviewed to be doing it. But anyway, okay. So we have 3 questions, 3 minutes. Let's get started. What is a money mistake you're weirdly glad that you made?
This is like a singular incident. I thought about this. Okay. So I grew up poor. And so when I went to college, like I paid for college, like I had Pell Grants and worked 3 jobs my entire collegiate career. And there are times when I had like $2 in my FSU account. And I remember being like, I don't know that I'm going to make it to my next payday with this $2.44 in my account.
Right.
So I went to the ATM. There was no fees on FSU campus. You could take $1 out if you wanted to. So I get $1 and I buy a lottery ticket.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, big money. Right. Casey, I won $100.
That's awesome.
And I hate gambling. I am not a lottery player. I am not a gambler. It's the one time in my life that I did it. And I was like, I can eat until Friday.
Oh my gosh. Maybe divine intervention there.
Yes. Yeah.
That's awesome. Good story. If you could only travel to one place, you've done a lot of traveling. If you could only travel to one place, where would you go and who are you taking?
Okay. If I could go to one place right now, I want to go a lot of places. So I'm going to say this is not the place that's necessarily at the top of the list. It's just I'm singularly focused on it right now. I really want to go to Lima, Peru.
Okay.
And I want to go to this restaurant called Central. And I've been trying to get down there for a few years. I just can't seem to make it happen. And who would I take? Anybody who wants to go to Michelin star restaurants, because that's what it is.
Okay. Oh, in Peru.
They serve not based on course. They serve based on terrain because Peru has sea level and they have like high mountain terrain. Yeah. And so the first course is sea level and the last course is these potatoes that they grow at like 14,000 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
How'd you find about this place?
It was on Chef's Table.
Was that an open table?
Yeah, it's an open table. Yeah. On Chef's Table. I really love that show, and they did that one, and it was just so good.
That's cool. All right. Let's see. What's something you believed strongly 10 years ago that you don't believe anymore?
I used to kind of believe that everything had an answer. Like there was one answer for probably anything.
Yeah.
And the older I've gotten and the more that I've stepped back and pulled the scope back on everything from like politics to like what did that person make the right decision? I have grown to see that there's really not. There's just the best decision for that person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really helped me kind of, especially in such like a crazy, polarized world, it's helped me understand people a lot better.
Yeah.
And probably where a lot of people would cut off relationships, I've been able to understand people a lot better.
Interesting. Very deep.
Thanks.
We have a lot of 25-year-olds around here.
Yeah.
And that answer, I'm waiting for someone to say Santa Claus.
Oh.
But you're probably not believing in Santa Claus when you're 14 years old. So I guess I'm never going to get that answer.
You don't believe, you don't receive. That's the rule in our house.
That's right.
Santa's coming.
Thank you, Megan, for doing this. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you're interested in learning more about Wiser Wealth Management or want to schedule a consultation to meet with one of our fiduciary financial advisors, you can do so by going to wiserinvestor.com, or you can click in the episode notes. We'll see you guys again next week.
Thanks for listening to a Wiser Retirement podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. That way you don't miss any new episodes. We'd also appreciate if you could leave a rating and review. If you have any questions about anything that was discussed today, head to wiserinvestor.com and reach out. This podcast is strictly for informational purposes only and is not to be considered as investment advice or solicitation to buy or sell any financial products, securities, digital assets, or any other investment vehicles, or a basis to make any financial decisions. Wiser Wealth Management Incorporated is a registered investor advisor with the SEC. The host and/or guests may personally own securities, digital assets, or other investment vehicles mentioned on this podcast. Neither the host nor guests of the show are compensated for their participation, and no referral fees are paid to or received by any host or guest for clients, listeners, or similar interests. Investments involve risk, and unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor, tax professional, insurance professional, and/or legal professional before implementing any strategy discussed herein. Past performance is not indicative of future performance.